Hello, my friends, hello, and welcome once again to Stately Von Manor. And today, it's Epic Comic Book Wednesday. Every Wednesday, I'll talk about a different graphic novel, comic book, or comic book subject. Steve Donoghue over on his channel will talk about that same comic book graphic novel or comic book subject. It is our world's finest team up that we do once a week. And this week, the comic book, well, the graphic novel actually that we're going to be talking about is this. It's Marvel Superhero Secret Wars. It's a graphic novel, a collection. It collects the 12-issue Marvel Superhero Secret Wars miniseries that came out in 1984 and 1985 when I was 13 and 14 years old. And I bought every issue of this as it came out. I remember being very excited when the first issue of Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars came out, which should be no surprise because this was the cover. And the cover of the first issue of Secret Wars is magnificent. That is a great comic book cover. And you can bet I bought it as soon as I saw that. And I was pretty excited about this miniseries. Of course, this is Alex Ross's version of that cover. And the cover is probably the best thing about this graphic novel. It's not terrible, but this miniseries had some issues. This is Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, which was created to sell toys, which I didn't realize when I was 13 years old and bought the first issue. Mattel wanted to sell some Marvel Superheroes toys. This is the advertisement. And I remember seeing the advertisement for the toys, but I guess I didn't realize the whole reason for the miniseries' existence was to sell these toys, these action figures. There's photos of the action figures in here. I never had any of the toys, I don't think, because, I was 13. But I remember seeing the ads for them. And this series makes more sense once you realize, it was a series made to sell toys. So I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version of what happens in this story. Boiling it down, what happens is this. There is this all-powerful alien whose name is the Beyonder. It's the Beyonder because he's from beyond, And the Beyonder is all-powerful because, sometimes aliens are all-powerful when you need aliens to be all-powerful for the story. And he's really interested, this alien, in superheroes and supervillains for some reason. And so he decides to take all the superheroes and a lot of the supervillains from Earth, send them to this planet that he has cobbled together and created, and have them fight. Because he figures, that's the best way to learn about, good and evil, watching a bunch of people fight. And so he does this. He traps the superheroes in giant mouse traps that he puts in a park. And they go right in. This is the giant mouse trap that he puts in that park. Basically, and these are the Avengers here. Basically, when the superheroes wander into this giant mouse trap, they're transported to this space station. And here they all are superheroes. The war begins. So from the space stations, the superheroes on their space station and the villains on their space station are transported to this planet. And the Beyonder creates this planet right in front of them. It's a freshly baked planet. And the Beyonder says, I am from beyond. Slay your enemies and all you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish. And so, all the villains and the heroes see all this and hear all this. Galactus is one of the villains, by the way. Great idea, Beyonder, bringing Galactus along. What could possibly go wrong? Galactus is like, screw this noise, and he leaves immediately. So basically, they go to the planet. There's a base for the good guys. There's a base for the bad guys. There's a bunch of alien technology lying around. And they have several fights. There are conflicts, conflicts among the villains, conflicts among the heroes. The X-Men decide to go out on their own. Magneto, inexplicably, has been selected to join the heroes. But of course, nobody trusts Magneto because he's Magneto. So there's a conflict there. Eventually, Galactus gets hungry, and this is a fresh-baked planet. So Galactus decides to eat the planet. Because, yeah, that's what he does. And then Doctor Doom, who wisely is chosen to be the top villain in this story, because Doctor Doom is the best villain ever. Doctor Doom decides, hey, the Beyonder's all-powerful. I'm going to find a way to make myself all-powerful. So he does. And so there's that going on. Also, there's lots of romance and interesting relationships going on. Colossus decides, heck with that Kitty Pryde. I'm going to, fall in love with this beautiful alien woman I've met here. And so he does. He falls in love with the beautiful alien woman. And when he gets back to Earth, dumps Kitty Pryde. Because he's a jerk. Colossus, you big jerk. Oh, well. That was one of the repercussions to the Marvel Universe. There are some repercussions from this miniseries. For one thing, and I remember this when I bought these issues initially. It starts off great. I remember that too. It starts off with really excellent artwork from Mike Zeck. Mike Zeck does the artwork for the initial few issues. He is really, really good in these initial issues. Get some great fights. Magneto's tossing people around. I like Mike Zeck. I always have. When he's good, he's really good. But this was a long series. I remember that about it. I remember, there were things about this when it started. So when it started, all the superheroes are sent to this other planet to have this secret war. But the secret war is a year long. This is a 12-issue miniseries. So the Thing on the Fantastic Four is part of this, but he doesn't come back with the Fantastic Four. He's having outer space adventures. And that just happens. We don't really find out exactly how that happened for a year, basically, until the very end of this miniseries. Also, Spider-Man comes back with a new costume, which turns out to be an alien symbiote. Lucky Spider-Man. So anyway, Spider-Man comes back with his new costume, but we don't know how he got this new costume exactly for 8 months. Because that's just how it went with Secret Wars. And I remember this series taking forever. I was really excited about it, the first few issues, but then it just kept going on. It kept going on, and I wanted to see how it was all going to resolve. And this series is way too long. I remember that the first time I read it, and the resolution is not great. But I felt that again as I was reading it this time, that this is twice as long, at least, as it needs to be. For this story, which was written by Jim Shooter, it should have been a 6-issue miniseries, really. I realized reading this that it reminded me of another miniseries, this one, Contest of Champions, where all the superheroes are taken by all-powerful aliens to have a contest of champions with great repercussions and, the fate of the world at stake and all that. But this was 3 issues, This is a good length for this story. This story just went on and on and on. And it didn't have to, because the story wasn't good enough to support that many issues. It, like I said, way too long for what this is. Basically, you've got the all-powerful villain, the kind of all-powerful alien that you'll find in Star Trek, popping up way too often. You have that here with the Beyonder. And the Beyonder is just an excuse to get them to this planet to fight. Also with the artwork, something happens with Mike Zeck, which I also saw happen in Circle of Blood, which was the Punisher miniseries that he did. The Punisher miniseries, which made the Punisher much more popular than he had been previously. That series, the Punisher series, Circle of Blood, started out fantastic. The art was great, and it was good for the first 2 issues. It was a 4-issue series that became a 5-issue series. The last issues 3 and 4, the art was noticeably not as good. It was deteriorating, the art. It started to look really rushed. So while the art in the first issue and in the second issue was pretty good too, were really, really good, issues 3 and 4, the art was not so great. And by issue 5 of that miniseries, Zek wasn't even doing the artwork anymore. It was somebody else, and it was terrible. I kind of felt that happening here, where in the beginning of the book, the first 3 issues, the artwork was really good. Like, this is some of the earlier artwork with Spider-Man, and there was Magneto there. Then the artwork switches to another artist. Let me see here. Let me get to the switch. Yeah, with issue 4, the art switches to Bob Layton, who is just okay, in my opinion. He's no Mike Zeck. And so it was a noticeable change for the artwork quality, going from Zeck to this. And so a couple issues are done by Layton, and you could really see it here, like with that Thor, for example. It's just, this artwork is not as good. Zeck does come back, though, for the second half of this miniseries. And while it's not bad, you can tell as the series progresses that the artwork starts to look a little more and more rushed as things go along, until you get to the last couple issues where it has its moments, but a lot of it's just not great. It's starting to look like Zek is being rushed once again, even in this little battle panel there. It's not it's not close to being as good as it was when it first started. The story is not so great towards the end either. We've got Dr. Doom, who has become all-powerful, and immediately the first thing he does as Dr. Doom when he becomes all-powerful is he fixes his face. And you can't blame him. He looks pretty bad. So he fixes his face first thing. And then we have the final confrontation with the superheroes. The ending of this is kind of anticlimactic. It's just kind of, we spent a year for this? Really? I remember feeling that when I first read it. It wasn't as bad this time because, I read it in an afternoon, basically. But I remember that really reading this for the first time, what it felt like to get through all this through the series and be like... But it started off good. And this series was actually kind of a big deal in the Marvel Universe at the time. It was one of the first major crossover series that had a big effect on the regular issues. Too big of effect, sometimes. This was followed by the absolutely horrible Secret Wars 2, of which the less said the better. Secret Wars 2 was a nightmare of awfulness. That was pretty bad. This is okay. This is okay. You're not missing anything if you don't read it. It's kind of fun, but that's all it is. It's kind of fun. It is not a great Marvel Comics superhero story. It's just what it is. It's a miniseries to sell toys. And I imagine they did fairly well. And this sold really well. I have to say that. And it was fun to see all the superheroes together, even if the characterizations of those superheroes was not always great. I mean, there are things about this. Once Galactus leaves the band of supervillains, the supervillains are way outclassed. Because, I mean, look at these superheroes. You've got Thor on this team, and the Hulk on this team, and the Thing. So, and Captain Marvel's in there. I mean, and Iron Man. The villains would just be wasted, right? I mean, those are some heavy hitters. They could take care of those villains in like 5 minutes if they wanted to. And I'm not even mentioning the X-Men who can lend a helping hand, and Spider-Man's there. I mean, but that's a quibble. That's just the way it goes in comic books. So yeah, Marvel Comics Secret Wars. I don't really have anything else to say about it except that. Catch me next week when we talk about a different comic book. A better one, I'm hoping. Okay, guys. Be sure to check out Steve Donoghue and see what he has to say about this miniseries. I will catch you next time. Thanks, guys.